Welcome to Fantasy Football Hub. In this video, I'm joined by Bakar, who's going to give us his optimal draft for the free hit in Gameweek 28. I'm looking forward to it. I think because it's a free hit, there might be a few interesting choices in there. But before we get into seeing player one, first of all, Bakar, how are you doing? And secondly, who should be looking to use the free hit chip this week?
Thanks for having me, Jack. Hello, and welcome to all the listeners and viewers. I assume most FPL managers would already be in a position where they would know whether or not to use the free hit chip, because that's essentially what we've been building towards in recent weeks, where we've been making transfers, selling players who are blanking in Game Week 28. However, if you're still, let's say, sitting on the fence and you're not really sure whether or not to free hit, I hope this video goes some way in helping you make your decision. I think firstly, you need to assess the number of players you have in 28. Obviously, if you have like, let's say 5-6 players, then that's an easy decision to free hit. Secondly, the quality of players in Game Week 28 that you have are important. I mean, a lot of FPL managers have loaded up on the likes of Tarkowski, McNeil, Nonto from Leeds. I mean, these are players who don't have great fixtures in 28, and they're unlikely to be of much use this week. So I would say if you own these players, then you should look at the other players that you're missing out on and whether bringing them in on a free hit would offer more value addition to your team. The third point is, especially for those who have a wild card remaining, you have to look at Game Week 29, which is a double, and you have to see how well you're set up for the double Game Week 29. If you're not well set up for the double Game Week 29, then you can perhaps use the wild card this week instead and set yourself up for both weeks, as 28 and 29, and bring in players who play not only once this week, but also double in Game Week 29. And this is likely to be the case for, with teams like Chelsea, Leicester, and Villa. These are the teams that play this week in 28 and also double in 29. So you can load up on these teams if wildcarding. Lastly, I mean, you can, again, this is team dependent, but you can assess how well you're likely to be set up for 32, which is again going to be a blank, and some teams like Brighton, Man United, Chelsea, Man City are likely to be blanking in 32. We will have a full picture of it after the FA Cup, but as of now, you can sort of assess whether or not saving the free hit for, let's say, blank Game Week 32 makes more sense. And if it isn't needed, then perhaps using it in Game Week 37, which is a double, or again a double in 34, might make more sense. But all in all, I mean, free hitting this week kind of makes more sense for those people who are who've heavily loaded up on Man United, Man City, Brighton, Liverpool. But other than that, I think most managers will be in a position where they can comfortably avoid the free hit.
Okay, so without further ado then, that is the rationale for using it. Let's get into the players that you have chosen in your draft. Starting off with the goalkeepers. Who have you got?
I've picked Kepa in goal as the first choice goalkeeper. I think the Chelsea are very likely to keep a clean sheet against Everton. Everton away from home, I would think they would be very defensive. Dyche won't exactly go for it. He'll be happy to take a point, and they're just going to park a bus against them. And Chelsea at home, their underlying data is very strong. I'd be very surprised if they conceded. And as we've seen in the past, Kepa tends to concede low XG shots and tends to rack up plenty of bonus points because of Chelsea's ability to play out from the back. He often gets those 30 passes which are required to accumulate bonus with high pass completion percentage.
Okay, and let's leave the backups because it's a free hit, so we care more about the 11, but we'll get back to the sub goalkeeper. So let's go straight into the defense then.
Ben Chilwell, I've doubled up on the Chelsea defense
Nice.
for the reasons I mentioned, but Ben Chilwell is someone who's really caught my eye in recent weeks. He's playing as the wing back. Potter's reverted to a wing back system, and he's played thrice now in a week, which is great. And I've picked him over James in this free hit draft because he's sort of proven his fitness more than James in recent times. He's also in set pieces, which is great. And when you look at recent numbers, he's been involved in 4 of Chelsea's previous 6 goals. So he's just a very good pick, a player with high upside and who's likely to be somewhat of a differential this week. So I really like him.
It's interesting you mention his fitness and playing that many times. He just looks a lot stronger. I don't know if it's that time out that he's just been in the gym more anyway for the rest of his body, but in the past, when he was still flying, he looked a little bit more slight, and now he's bodying people. He's really dueling well. He just looks confident in his body. It's great to see as a Chelsea fan. All right, next up.
Next up, I've picked Kieran Trippier from Newcastle. I think this is a pick that picks itself. Trippier's been top for big chances created since the restart, and his numbers are exemplary. I'm not entirely sure whether Newcastle keep a clean sheet this week because Forest have been very strong at home. They've actually failed to score in a home game since game week 4, which is why I haven't doubled up on the defense. But Trippier, I treat him like an outfielder. Anything that you get from him is a bit of a bonus. So, I mean, his underlying data is so strong that that he can deliver big in any fixture, and this is one of them. So Trippier picks himself.
And I guess we saw that even in the last game, just outscoring every other Newcastle defender because he got that assist. Okay, next up.
Next up is Zinchenko from Arsenal.
Okay.
Now, it's interesting that I've picked Zinchenko despite the fact that Gabriel scored yesterday. But I still think that that fullbacks, their involvement is more, let's say, predictable as compared to a centre-back goal. And generally from the restart, Zinchenko's numbers have been very strong. Whenever he's played, when you look at the last six fixtures, he's up there for touches in the final third among defenders, and his XG is actually better than Gabriel's post restart. And even in the Europa League fixture last week, he created like 2 big chances for Martinelli, I think it was. And so his underlying data is very strong, and I think that he's a slightly better option than Gabriel.
Okay. But it's quite a close one, you would say. What about people that have had Gabriel and then they're keeping him on free hit or that sort of thing? And you've had him this point in the season, and you just be like, oh, I want that goal again. Would you say have him for the chat, for the banter? You like him enough as a player, just get him in there instead of Zinchenko, or is Zinchenko definitely better?
I mean, generally in the FPL community, there's a split, but I'm firmly in the Zinchenko camp. I think that Zinchenko is definitely a better option, but I don't think I'm in the majority when it comes to this opinion.
Fair enough. So then, are you going with 4 defenders starting, or is 3?
No, it's 3. It's 3 at the back. Yeah.
So let's move on to the midfield then.
Sure. It's double Arsenal midfield to go with. Bukayo Saka sort of picks himself despite the fact that he hasn't really hit the heights that we've sort of been used to. But again, he's actually a very, let's say, a very realistic candidate for captaincy this week, which is why I've basically selected him. 90 minutes man as well, which is something I like. The second pick this was a bit of a tough selection. It was Odegaard versus Martinelli, or even Trossard, actually. I've picked Odegaard because I just think Jesus can eat into the minutes of either Martinelli or Trossard, and I don't want to exactly take the risk where either one of them gets subbed early. Odegaard, we know, is likely to be a 90 minutes man, and his recent numbers have actually really improved in recent times, and he's racking up plenty of shots and getting plenty of big opportunities. So that bodes well for him. So I've selected Odegaard.
Okay. Yeah, because you say Saka picked himself, but if you're just going based off of point scorers recently, maybe
no, it's more of a case of 90 minutes as well, because with Saka I expect him to play 90 minutes, and Odegaard I expect him to play 90 minutes. So both of them win when it comes to expected minutes. I just don't think there's enough between them when it comes to underlying statistics to pick one over the other. And Saka obviously does have the additional advantage of penalties as well. I just don't think he can ever be a bad pick.
No. And of course, you're right with Jesus coming back now into the squad at least. Yeah, the minutes risk for Martinelli and Trossard is probably a little bit too strong. Okay, next midfielder.
Next midfielder is Son Heung-min.
Here we go.
He's a bit of a differential.
Yeah, I love it.
These days. At this point last season, I recall him being in almost every other FPL team, but it's not to be the case this year because he's been out of form. He scored at the weekend, and I'm just gonna take a punt on him. Just on the basis of the fixture that he has against Southampton. With free hit, you tend to go with the high upside picks, and I don't think you can get any better than Son Heung-min right now.
Okay, there we go. First, not well. I guess Chilwell's non-template to be fair, but Son is not in any normal teams. Let's be honest with that one.
Yes.
Okay, next one. Who we got?
The next one is James Maddison. Again, a bit of a differential. He was in some wildcard teams in 26 and 27, but again, he's still a differential. His ownership is below 10%. I actually think those people who went with him in recent times have been very unfortunate. He's recorded 3 big chances created since his return, but none of them have been converted. And it's basically the wastefulness of the Leicester strikers that have been letting him down in recent times. But I think there's a haul in him waiting to happen. And judging by Brentford Leicester is generally high scoring. I think with the history of this fixture, I expect Leicester to score and Maddison to be involved, which is why I've selected him.
Okay, and
he's due a haul. He's simply due a haul.
I was going to mention your tweet the other day where you just said that Maddison owners have been incredibly unlucky, and that is of course due to the profligacy of forwards like Iheanacho. I mean, that game against, was it Southampton, where he was incredibly
It was
unlucky, missed loads of chances. Let's be frank. And what can Maddison really do about that? Okay, so are we going with a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2?
3-4-3. Yeah.
3-4-3. Okay. Now, before we get into the first forward, guys, remember, if you want to do this yourself and build your own free hit team and just see what it's looking like without having to do it in the app and risking hitting the button and everything going wrong and taking -64s and all that stuff, and of course seeing predicted points, then the key to do that is to go down in the description and click on the link, and that will take you right to this page, My Team Tool, Fantasy Football Hub, and you can have a play around yourself and see what your team's looking like. Okay, first forward, my friend, who we got?
Harry Kane, I think he's the one who picks himself again as one of the best captaincy options this week, in form, and he's been super consistent this season. So, I mean, there's no doubt regarding this pick.
Sure, let's move straight on then.
The next one I have is Ivan Toney. I think he'll do well against Leicester because Leicester, I was looking at their recent stats. In fact, their stats away from home this season have been horrendous. They're 19th for XG, not by an XG conceded away from home, and they tend to concede plenty of chances. And this Leicester defense has been a bit of a shambles this season, and I think Brentford can exploit this very well. I've said this game will be high scoring. I expect it to be, and I expect Toney to deliver points at the other end for Brentford on penalties. Solid player, solid performer. 90 minutes. I just don't see how you can follow this pick.
Also, won't Wout Faz be suspended for this game if I've got that right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm not saying he's an excellent defender, but he is in their first 11, so I'm not entirely sure who will come in, but they won't be completely match fit already, you could argue. So that could be beneficial for Toney's chances as well. Okay then. So final spot in the first 11, who we got?
This is another differential. So I've picked 4 differentials in my squad. First was Chilwell, second was Son, third was Maddison, and now the fourth is Kai Havertz. I've gone with him because Chelsea seem to be in a better moment in recent times. Ever since they've switched to the wing-back system, they're creating plenty of chances. Havertz, we know he's on penalties, which is another. It's a big plus for him. And the fact that in each of the previous 3 starts, when you look at the game against Leeds and then the Champions League versus Dortmund, and even this weekend against Leicester, his underlying data is very strong. He's had at least 1 big chance in each of these games. And I think there's more to come. I think Havertz will be overlooked this week because of Chelsea's upcoming Champions League rotation risk. But for this week alone, I think he's a very good option, and I like him more than any of the budget strikers if I was looking at this week alone.
Okay, so that is the first 11 then. Let's quickly fill it out with your bench picks. Now, the bench isn't really important on a free hit, but your first bench especially, does need to be someone who you can actually visibly see playing. So who is your first bench pick, first of all?
The first bench pick can be any of Sven Botman or Matty Cash. Probably Matty Cash, I guess, because it's the slightly easier fixture.
Okay.
And I expect Villa to do well against Bournemouth, and Cash does have some attacking threat as well. So Cash, Botman, and then any midfielder. I've picked Dewsbury Hall. You can pick anyone basically in this slot. Doesn't really matter. The goalkeeper substitute is Fraser Foster, fresh from a penalty save this week, and he has a good fixture as well. So I think he's actually a good option. I mean, I did consider going for, let's say, someone like a Pedro Porro on in the free hit as well, but Emerson could be back, so that's the bit of a threat that there is to him. But yes, I really like Spurs' options this week.
Okay, and that is the team. As it stands then, triple Chelsea. You wouldn't have been thinking that a couple of weeks ago, so that is great to see.
Triple Chelsea, triple Arsenal, double Spurs.
Yeah. Wow, there we go. A London-heavy free hit team, but you love to see it. Right, so I'm just putting in the players now. You're saying you bench Botman. As it stands, predicted points of 61.7. Now, if you were playing a free hit, actually that is not true because I have Son as captain. Sorry. Who would be your captain? You said that Saka could be the play. Would it be Saka or would it be Mr. Harry Kane?
It will be one of Saka or Kane.
And right now, if you were to lean towards one of them, who would you go for?
I haven't given it much thought, but I think I'll. I mean, as of now, I was on Saka. That was the first instinct.
Okay. So with Saka,
I think he'll do better in the algorithm as well. I'm not entirely sure.
Well, according to Hub's algorithm, he is slightly behind Kane, but algorithms are just algorithms for a reason. So with all that done, predicted points of 63 with a game week rating of 94%. Would you take 63 points right now from this team? And second question is, given the free hit chip and its obvious advantages, how many points would you be looking to gain over other managers ranked similarly that are not using that chip in this week to make it worthwhile?
I think the more pertinent question is how many points are you looking to gain over your original team? Had you chosen not to free hit? I think that's a better way of looking at it, because a lot of people have set up for game week 26 and 27 wildcards just to accommodate not using the free hit in 28. So I think a more fair comparison would be if you look at your original team, and let's say if it's decimated and you only have 4, 5, 6 players playing, then what choice do you have? So obviously, if you're gaining, let's say 15, 20 points on that team, then it makes a lot of sense to free hit.
That's a very good point, because obviously people are going to be on different strategies, and managers may have wanted to or planned on using the free hit chip in 28 for a long time compared to others who may not, and now just realizing they have to. And yeah, as you say, if you're massively gaining on your original team, then you've done as well as you can. It doesn't really matter too much about other people. But yeah, there we go then. Overall, that is the team. I'll be honest, it looks very strong. It looks a lot stronger than the team that I'm going to have for that week. Just quickly, before we end today's episode, how is your team looking for 28 overall? Just a brief summary. Is it looking like you'd have to free hit, or the plan is still intact and you're not going to free hit in 28?
No, my team is, as of now, it's well set up. I might use my 2 free transfers. Let's see. I'm looking to bring in some of the players I mentioned.
Okay, then. That is going to do it for Bakar's optimal free hit draft for Game Week 28. If any of you are tempted because of Bakar's Unreal team, I mean, personally, I'm looking at Havertz there, looking at the form he's in and thinking that is a lot of fun, then yeah, go ahead. As I said earlier on, if you want to try it out for yourself, the link to the Fantasy Football Hub My Team tool is down in the description and the pinned comment. And with that all being said, Bakar, thank you very much as always, and we will see you later on this week for a preview of the game week.
Pleasure. Good luck, Dak.